Hello, everyone. Welcome to Therapy Thursdays. It's an amazing day out here. I'm excited for today's conversation. We got some amazing people who's going to join us today. Welcome, everybody. It's Therapy Thursday. I'm excited. Let me add some of these wonderful panelists in on the conversation. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, I want to say your name right. Kai? Is it Kai?
Kai.
Kai, I remember. I got you. I remember it. I'm gonna say it right.
No
It's good to
worries.
have you. Wait for everybody else to join. We'll continue to add everybody.
Not a
Um,
problem. Glad to
uh,
be here.
yeah, Gregory, we're gonna add you at the end. So just hold on, quick, Gregory. I'm gonna add you towards the end for your input, Gregory. Just hold on for a little bit. I want to hear what you have to say later on. So
Sounds good. Hi, Jane.
we got everybody else waiting for Maggie and our wonderful special guest. So how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
That is great.
Yep. It was raining in Miami for a few days, but the last 2 days have been sunny, so that's good.
Oh wow. I can't do rain. I be trying to deal with the rain, but I just can't handle
Right.
it. Yeah. Just sent some requests out. So, okay. Wait for everybody else to join. I got hang on tight. I'm excited for today's conversation. I just love it. So to be right, you're vegan, right, or vegetarian?
I'm not a vegan. I'm a vegetarian. I like
Okay.
eggs
Me
far too
too.
much.
I'm the same thing. I love it. I love it. So let's be good. We have one vegan, one vegetarian today. So it'll be good to hear both of your last thoughts. So
Perfect. Hi, Trey.
do you see? Yeah, I see Miss Stevenson. I tried to request, but it's not allowing her to come on. Mm-hmm. I think Miss Stevenson, you have to accept the request. Mm-hmm. Hey, Miss Stevenson.
Hi, you can call me Tambra.
Tambra. Okay, I got you. Miss Tambra, I got you. It's good to have you. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. Same here.
Wait for one more
Nice to meet
panelist.
everyone.
Nice to meet you as well.
And who is our fabulous curly co-host?
Hi,
This
I'm
is
Kai.
hmm so we have Kai with us. He's a vegetarian. You can introduce yourself, Kai.
Hi, I'm Kai Singer. I am currently an English teacher in Miami, Florida. I graduated from Howard University and worked with Jane in Urban Health Media Project, which is how I'm so connected here.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a vegetarian. First started my vegetarianism in 2016. I took a short break and tried to go back to meat for like a couple months 3 years ago, and it was not working for me. So here I am, I'm back vegetarian.
All right. Thank you so much, Kai. Maggie, it's good to have you. Introduce yourself. Hope she can hear me. Maybe the service. Maggie, you can hear us? Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school. So I've been doing that for about
8 years now.
Okay. You bring it up just a little bit, but help you introduce yourself. This is Maggie O'Donnell. This is James' niece. She said she's vegetarian. Am I correct, Maggie? Yes, perfect, perfect. And the wonderful shero we have here today, Miss Tambra Ray Stevenson. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am here live in Washington, D.C. I'm Tambra Ray, and I am the founder and CEO of WANDA, which is Women Advancing Nutrition, Dietetics, and Agriculture, where we focus on building a pipeline and a platform for Black women and girls to lead in the food system from farm to health. And I call Ward 8 home. But my original home is in Oklahoma and grew up in Texas. And so I went to Oklahoma State for my nutrition degree and studied Spanish, but also went to Tufts to study health communication. And now I'm at American University studying for my PhD in media technology and democracy with an interest of how Black women communicate online for their health. So I am happy to be here. I'm also happy to say that I was recently reappointed this week to the DC Food Policy Council, where I co-chair the Nutrition and Health Working Group and an advocate for nutrition for all and fighting for nutrition equity in our District of Columbia.
Well, that's so great. I'm so happy we have all of you guys here today. A little bit about myself. I'm Davon Harris. I'll be the moderator for today's live discussion. I'm a college intern here with the UHMP. I'm a pescatarian. I did vegetarian for a year and a half, and then pandemic came. I got hungry, so I started eating my favorite shellfishes and all that great stuff. So I left the community, but I don't eat no more than the other things, but I still eat healthy to keep my I actually did vegetarian because I had some other health issues with my body. So high blood pressure. And I'm 20 years old dealing with high blood pressure. Like makes no sense. So I was like, let me just work on taking out some things out of my diet and focus on eating healthy. So I agree. And also I'm from DC, Ward 8. So I'm out here in Richmond now. Exactly. I live in Richmond now. I'm staying out here for school, but I'll come back to DC because it's my home. So I enjoy it so much. But like I said again, I'm so happy to have all of you guys on this live today. But today's conversation, we're talking about healthy foods, especially plant-based diets, and how it positively affects not just our physical, but our mental health. So the first question I want to ask, you can start with you, Tambra, and we can go all the way around, is how does a plant-based diet, or just healthy foods in general, affect your mental health?
Well, as we've seen during the course of COVID, we under stress tend to attract the unhealthy food, the sweets and the meats. And so if you flip the script, what were the foods to give you life and vibrancy are the foods that I call not dyed, fried, and laid to the side. So we're talking all the things that are the color of the rainbow, that are things that you can pick from Mother Earth, and also the foods that, bear seeds and literally have life within them. And so for me, I take a very common sense approach to nutrition because part of a health communicator is speaking to people where they are. So I learned this week, my daughter, who will be 11 in August, has decided to go vegan. She calls herself Regan because her name is Ruby, and so that's what Ruby does, is make up her own words. And so she's gone Regan, and it's amazing to be her mom and make sure we walk her through that process in a healthy way, because you can be an unhealthy vegan, as we know, with all the potato starches and everything else. So for me, even with her, I'm talking supplementation. I'm talking about what are you not getting from your vegan diet and how can we make sure. So up until this point, they were taking multivitamins, the gummies, and I was reading how the liquid version of multivitamins actually help with better absorption. So today she tried a new liquid multivitamin that tastes like orange juice, 1 tablespoon a day, in addition to her new foods that she'll be eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's going to be challenging, but I think in terms of the mental health, especially for those who are going through puberty like her, mood becomes even more important. And so that's why my first job coming to DC was on youth traumatic stress at SAMHSA. And I began looking at, wow, how can the food that we eat from the corner stores, the carry out, how is that impacting people's mood, and how it's so important to think about when we are stressed and depressed, that eating unhealthy food that's dead food actually also just exacerbates the problem more. So it becomes, if we know that walking helps with our mental health, then we should make the connection that our food also helps with our mental health. And so one of the things is thinking about your vitamin B complex. Are you getting your B's for a be better attitude? Is one way to think about it. And so how can you get them? Supplementation obviously is one, and then also through your diet. We have to be super mindful. There are water soluble and fat soluble vitamins. And I say that because we love sauteing and cooking the hell out of greens. But if we can eat them, again, raw, fresh, whether it's a salad or a smoothie, or find different creative ways to incorporate raw foods into our diets. I don't like saying the word raw. I like fresh better. So if we can eat more fresh foods, because we want to stay fresh and so clean, then we would think about how can foods reflect the kind of lifestyle. So the way I think about it is, when you look at your plate today, what would your plate say if you could not talk? And I want my plate to say that I'm alive and I'm living my best life, not fried, died, and laid to the side.
That's so wonderful. What about you, Kai? How does your vegetarian diet help your mental health?
Well, first, it starts with my confidence in the fact that, I get acne, as I'm sure a lot of people do. I worry about my appearance, as a lot of people do. And I can tell when I'm not eating well, even if I'm not as aware, because my skin will show it. And, that just doesn't make me feel good. So, one, there's this air of, I know that I'm doing well for myself, as well as I'm looking good, which is great. Number two, I think I find nature and natural things and natural substances, those can be a source of spirituality, and you can get spirituality from nature and get spirituality from the earth. And so I feel very connected to the earth. I feel very rooted with who I am and where I'm headed, in part because of my diet. On top of the fact that, I feel better. I physically feel better, which then makes my mood feel better. On that, the reason why I stopped my break from vegetarianism, because I was thinking, man, maybe I'm not getting enough protein, maybe I should go back, was because I just did not feel well. And when I don't feel well, it comes out in my moods, it comes out in me being cranky and all that stuff. So it just keeps me at my homeostasis, or as close to my homeostasis as I can be.
All right, go. What about you, Maggie? How does your vegan or vegetarian? I always forget this. Vegetarian?
Vegan.
Vegan.
Not a vegan, but I guess my name's Maggie, so I can be vegan.
Exactly.
But I like the idea of making it, personal to yourself, because I think that's the thing. In terms of when I think about mental health and being vegan, for me, growing up and becoming a vegetarian and then a vegan pretty young, and being a non-confrontational person in general, I think having a lifestyle where it's very tied into your values and your ethics makes you, from a young age, especially as a woman, stand up for yourself a lot. And people will say, why are you doing that, what's this for? And then you have to explain yourself. And I think it really helped me grow more confident as a person and as a speaker and as a person who stands for their beliefs, through the process of having to explain when I wouldn't want to eat cheese on something, or the process of standing up for yourself and your beliefs through being a vegan. So that was an experience I had. And then also just cooking at the end of earlier today we were talking about being on Zoom fatigue sets in, and then being able to spend the evening cooking and talking to people over food. I think the emotional element of sharing vegan meals is really important to me as well.
That's amazing. I remember when I was doing vegetarian, I need to get back to it, but when I was doing vegetarian, I had so much energy. Now I still have energy,
Mm-hmm.
but I seen the energy go surplus when I was just, and actually like eating right, keeping my plate looking colorful and beautiful. Um, what the next question I'll ask for, probably just for Maggie and Kai, but like the question that everybody wants to know, definitely people that are meat eater carnivores, is it worth it? Like, if you was to explain to somebody, is it worth it going green? Or, if not, like, what's the positive effects for you? Like other than just, your mental, but what other things that have done for you? Like, how would you explain to somebody that it's worth it going green? Okay. You go Kai first. You go Kai.
Okay. Um, so I definitely think it's worth it if it is healthy for you. I know that there are some people who, for whatever reason, have to keep certain foods in their diet for deficits and whatnot. But if it is healthy for you, even if to not make the full conversion, to just try like a meatless Monday, to
Mm-hmm.
try, a plant-based or a vegan restaurant around, because I find it to be worth it in just the fact that, along the lines of what Maggie was saying, um, of standing up for your rights and standing up for what you believe, um, that in itself is worth it for me to know that I'm not, while I am still contributing, I'm not contributing as heavily as I was when I was eating meat to like the the food packing industry and like the meat marketing making industry, which I just don't believe with how it's and how it's run. So there's that's worth it for me. And as um, a black woman, as a black Hispanic woman, I have in both sides of my family long histories of like diabetes, heart disease, all that type of stuff. My maternal grandma died before 70 after she'd had like 3 open heart surgeries and so on and so forth. And I just don't want that path for myself. I don't want that path for one day when I do have a family. So it's worth it for me to know that peace of mind that if something does happen to me down the line, I did what I could. I put my best foot forward, and it was just meant to be. Um, but I definitely think that everyone should at least try a meal before, I'm not giving up meat. I'm not doing that. Just try it. Try a day. Try a plant-based alternative. Try a veggie burger or something. Just a little here and there. It's good for the environment. It's good for your body. It's good for everything.
Yeah. What about you, Maggie?
Yeah, I totally agree that people should just give it a try. I think one of the nice things about being a vegetarian or a vegan or incorporating it, more so into your lifestyle is that you end up thinking about what you are eating more often. And I think that first step towards being like conscious, having fewer things in your life that you go through mindlessly is probably good, going into each meal thinking about. I love that expression about like, if your plate had to talk for you. I'm going to remember
Yeah.
that. But like,
Mm,
that you want your
me too.
plate to be able to speak to what you want to put in your body, like who you are as a person and things like that. So I think living a life where more of that is all connected and thoughtful, it's worth a shot.
One of the myths of being vegan or vegetarian is that you just eat fruits and vegetables all day. So like what particular like nutrients do you need when going that way? I think this question be for Tambra. Like, now that your daughter's going vegan. So how do you get those things that you may be missing? Like what components or what nutrients may be missing from just eating fruits and vegetables? And what things do you implement into your diet to make sure you stay with your body, healthy with
Most
your body?
definitely. So before I answer that, I want to just play a cautious tale of not being a health food junkie, which is a real
Hmm.
book and supposedly a real diagnosis, about having a more pious approach to food. Some people come from the health or sustainable or ethical treatment of animals approach. So everyone has a different journey in how they arrive to being vegan. But
Hmm.
I'm just saying that because I've heard of tales of people who, once they've come out vegan, it's hard to give yourself grace and permission if you do happen to, I won't say slip up, but if you choose to incorporate pescatarian or whatever into your diet. So that's why I like calling myself a flexitarian.
Hmm.
And therefore I might have a day where I'm not eating meat. I might eat meat. And I think if you ever read Sister Vegan by Breeze Harper, she gives the anthology of Black women who go on this journey and realize that, you know, maybe it's for a season, maybe it is for a lifetime, like an Ecclesiastes. So I just want to, you know, share that for those who, because it can be a community, and provide accountability, but also I hope it's a loving community that you form around being able to like move and pivot like we've had to do during the pandemic. So with that said, when we think about our plates or our bowls, however wish you choose to eat, I love to first always thinking about one, even in a non-vegan diet, what typically do we not get enough of, which is fiber. We get an over amount of animal protein, and we get too much fat, too much salt, too much sugar. So how does that translate even into a vegan diet when you think about the fact that what are the top diseases that we are of concern? The diabetes, so that's the sugar. The cardiovascular, that's the fat. When we think about the renal failure, that's the protein. And so the question is, how do we make sure we have a balance as what was shared earlier, the homeostasis? So whatever we do, the plants are going to make sure, depending on depending on how you process. So it's not just the product, it's the processing and preparation that impacts the nutritional value of the food as well. So if you're eating fried okra, fried green tomatoes, that too is vegan, but is it actually going to provide the optimal amount of nutrient absorption into the body? So that's one. When we think about fiber, we're definitely going to get that from our plants, particularly not from white rice. So this is the other part, is unpacking all the learning. It's going to be the whole grains when you have, so what kind of whole grains? Pink rice, red rice. My whole thing, if it's brown, let it stick around. If it's white, it's not right. That's not referring to garlic and onions, but it's referring to the processing, ultra processing of foods when we think about sugar, salt, milk product, and also the flour, which are being heavily subsidized, but also it's highly, you know, quantified in our diet because these are cheap products that can be produced. So these are things to be like mindful of. How can we be the healthful vegan as well? The other part is the micronutrient. We know that we have a explosion of macronutrients in our diet, which is the fat, carb, and why am I blanking out on the other one? I had already just named it. Probably fat, carb, and protein. Yes. So when we're thinking about the micronutrients, this is where we're talking about the minerals and the vitamins, the water soluble and the fat soluble, and just minerals like magnesium, selenium, phosphorus, iron, things that were natural, zinc, that we typically don't think about, but they are so critical. And that was part of my first research in undergrad when I was doing bone mineral research, like looking at how these trace minerals are critical in partnering with other minerals and vitamins. They work as pair. I like to say they work as pair, like Sonny and Cher. They all work together for the greater good of nutrition in you. And so that's why it's not about vitamin and minerals in isolation, just like our organ systems are not in isolation. They're all interconnected and integrating, working together to build a high performing you. So it's a lot to unpack when you think about all the biochemistry of nutrition, but we can teach it in a very simple way, but it really is a very complex way of thinking about even genetics. So I always say, if genetic is 20% of you, your lifestyle is the 80% that's really going to round out. And what's part of that lifestyle is also the access to the food in your community. So we know our zip codes can impact us more than our genetic codes. And so mindful as we're having this conversation that it's easy and harder depending on what your zip code is to be vegan, and to be super mindful of like, how do we build community to support those who do want to go that path? Do you offer rides? Are you putting resources out there online? Are you thinking about advocating using your voice in food policy when it's time to testify, to talk about the importance of how do we share this, how do we use digital platforms like Instagram to help get the narrative out about, yeah, vegan is cool, but how can, yeah, people who are vegan, like, sometimes you're forced to be vegan if you're poor, and sometimes the ultimate vegan that you want to be sometimes appears that only if you have money. And so I always say, like, the most environmental friendly person has always been, at least to me, Black families and Black communities. We was recycling, reusing, reducing before it ever got popular. And so I kind of think about that when it comes about being vegan, as well, that when you couldn't have access to a fine T-bone steak or pork products or get the hen or chicken or whatever, like, yeah, you made it do what it do when it came to the pot of greens with the little piece of meat or whatever, or the pinto beans and the cornbread. That was like a vegetarian meal off the bat that gave me complete protein that was a staple, recipe, like growing up back home in Oklahoma. So I think, there's a lot to unpack in this conversation, but, I hope that's some food for thought for those who are tuning in.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's crazy because I want to ask somebody else the same question, but I have a question now because you brought up something. I may come back to that question. But, because of the area that we from, Ward 8 and Ward 7, like you brought up something that was really very important, the zip code. I grew up in an area where it was a carry out every block, but I had to travel so far to get to a Safeway or a Giant. So like what do we do now to find ways to eat healthy? It's so easy to go to a corner store, go to a carryout. Like what do we do now to implement healthy eating when it's hard to actually, get healthy foods?
Most definitely. So part of Wanda, one of the things that we're looking to do is encourage women to pledge to host a sisterhood supper. Meaning that we want to reinvigorate the idea of Soul Food Sundays and have that feeling of Big Mama's house on a Sunday, but it might be your mama, auntie, sister, friend. So this idea of coming out of COVID, how are we still building community together? How are we creating conversations of self-care, resiliency, recipes of resistance around the dinner table, and contribute to a community cookbook that serves as this time capsule? And so we're kicking that off this fall. We're going to be recruiting over the summer. That's why we had the Sisterhood Supper during Juneteenth in Ward 8, and we want to have at least 25 women to pledge to host, and they invite 4 friends each to encourage them to be a part of the conversation, and this is a way we can engage community. The other part, obviously, with my hat in Food Policy Council is I want to see, no matter age and stage of life, everybody eats, but everybody may not give a testimony. And so I think it's important to use our voices to speak for the voiceless and be able to use these platforms to really help amplify counter narratives to what people presume is happening in our communities. Though we may have deficits, we have assets. And I think if we lean on the strengths that we have, which is togetherness. One of the things I learned over the last week, that one in DC, DPR, they have a whole database of places you can go, trees in the community that you can forage. And so I went to Cayman Island and I foraged for blackberries and mulberries with a group of Black women. And it was the most awesome experience because I was just number one, I heard we had fruit trees, but I have not seen the fruit trees. I thought they chopped all the cherry trees, and I've come to learn, and I was just I've lived here all this time, and I never knew y'all had blackberry trees literally on the side of the road, off 11th Street Bridge, and off the Anacostia River. So that was so exciting because from there I made blackberry lemonade. I just ate a blackberry granola bowl. I had made another dish where I added blackberries and just pineapple and gave it to my kids. And so that was free food. If you're homeless, you could be foraging for berries right now. And then I realized you could bring your kids, you can bring your sister friends, and there is a mobile app, you can pay $4, you can download, and you can find fruit trees, forest trees all over it. And there's a forest specialist who has this database in DC that will share like when the tree was planted, what kind of tree is growing, bush or whatever. And so to me, like, I'm incorporating Black foraging to my new activity, as well as visiting the local farms, urban farms that are in our neighborhood. GC Greens just did a ground opening of the well, so we look forward to that Urban Ag Center coming in Ward 8 as well. But I think, these are different ways in which we can engage, but creativity is the secret sauce in the kitchen. There's so many other ways we can do it too. So those are just a few.
Wow, that was amazing. 'Cause I was just thinking about, when my mom was having issues and how they have food banks and stuff like that to help you out with certain things. So I didn't know about those fruit trees. That's new. I didn't put that in my
Get your
notebook. So I
gloves,
just,
because
yeah.
they have thorns on the blackberry bushes.
Oh wow. But it's good to hear that because I never knew about that. But that's amazing. What about what you, Kyle? Like, what do you do? I'm gonna go back to the other question I asked earlier. What do you do to make sure that you get all the nutrients with your diet?
Um, to make sure that I get my nutrients, I definitely need to take iron supplements. Um, those are helpful. I naturally, even before I switched my diet, I had low iron, so iron supplements are definitely something that I will recognize that I need to be more diligent with it now. At one point I was great with it, but I need to be more diligent now. Definitely the multivitamins help with getting the nutrients. And just diversifying the types of vegetables and the types of things that I'm consuming. I like vegetables. I've always liked vegetables. I'll try anything about once. And I'll try something again if it's been a while and I didn't think I like it. So diversifying in that way is how I try to. Things like infusing my water and things like that, trying to get some, just something, so one, it's not boring all the time, and two, a quick little way to get some things going more than just plain water. And I do kind of want to touch on your last point, what you were talking about a second ago, because as a teacher, I believe that starting with the young generation and starting with the young ones is a way to it. So like community gardens at school, teaching students about what they're putting in their mouth, teaching students all of those things about like environmental racism through where I work versus where I live, very, very different access to health food stores, not even health food stores, grocery stores, like you were saying. So just pointing those things out to students, because and it's never too late for us, but we can definitely get the ball rolling for the next generation, for the young ones coming up, because that's how I think shifts will really start occurring, because then that also ties into maybe they'll start using their voice, and maybe we won't have to speak up for the voiceless as much, because the voiceless will then find their own voices and find their own ways into it. But yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, go ahead, Maggie. Answer. Let us know how do you get our nutrients in your diet when you're being vegetarian. I'm sorry, vegan.
Yeah, those all of Kai's were good reminders for me of things that I need to reincorporate back into my diet after you lapse every once in a while. I really enjoy making sure that I always have rice and beans in the fridge, to ensure that there's always a complete meal there, so that if you're running late for something, or you're hungry for a snack, you reach for something like that rather than a bag of chips. And yeah, definitely I like to take a vegan multivitamin, or sometimes nutritional yeast on food, things that are fortified, is a great option as well.
That's great. That's good to know because some people, they go green, but they get sick because they're not eating the right things to incorporate in their diets. Like, so it's good to have a conversation because people need to actually hear these things. Like, add this to your diet. Think about this when you're making your plate, and more. But I do have a question, probably for everybody here. But Kai, you brought up something very important about starting young. So how do we implement that now to get students, like get young people, like young people actually wanting to change their diet? Because I remember I'm 20 years old, so a few years ago I was just in high school, and I see my friends every day getting a bag of hot fries. So how do you change that narrative from them wanting this snack into now them wanting to go and eat healthier more? Let's go with Tampa first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to the point made about the beans and rice, I'm glad that was brought up because
Hmm.
the complete protein situation is real. So if you are it's all about complementary protein. So combining a bean and a grain or legume and a grain, that's how you
Hmm.
can do that. And then supplement, as what was mentioned with the iron, there's heme and non-heme iron. So please know the difference. And then also, TVP is another way of getting the protein, the textured protein. Forgot the V. And then yeah, people had a lot of beans on deck during the pandemic, vegan or
Hmm.
not,
I did.
and that was one of those proudest moments that I was just like, we should have been eating beans a long time ago. COVID made
Hmm.
y'all eat beans finally. People coming out with bean cookbooks, bean industry talking about how can we keep eating beans? And so I think, I hope that continues,
Hmm.
to have healthy bowels. Who wants colon cancer,
Yeah.
system all backed up. So I think about Stephen Covey, think with the end in mind. Where do you want to be at the end of
Hmm.
this? What is your purpose on this earth? Everybody came into this world with a God-given purpose. Whether you believe in God or not, you're here for a reason. Now, the question is, how is your diet going to facilitate why you're here? Is it going
Hmm.
to break down like a car on the side of a road, or will it get you there to your final destination? Because ultimately, for me, food has to be shared in a context. And so for me, I'm all about how does my health help me to achieve my purpose? I believe that all of us should be here to help to make the world better. And we are having a conversation that how food helps to make the world better. And if that is not your tool in the toolbox to change the world, then how still, as a consumer, you help to achieve your purpose better because food helped lead the way. And that's why this conversation for us is so important for young people. You are the future leaders, but will you be healthy leaders? Will you die from the heart attack at age 40? Or will you die from the cancer at age 55 because of whether you were set up for success? Please know that you can change those setbacks. Um, your breakdowns will be your breakthrough moments, and to understand that food plays a role in how you achieve that. I have seen students who are bright, talented, get into private school, and have a crappy diet, and I feared, will they ever achieve the dreams that were born within their spirit? And to me, that is the worst thing that motivates me every day to think about our avatar, Little Wanda. How does Little Wanda become a role model for other children to see themselves as healthy eaters, readers, and leaders? Because it is a disservice to the purpose of you on this earth if you never achieve that goal. And I think that is, to me, the heart of the message here tonight is I want you to believe that you're worthy, you're deserving to have a place on this earth, in this city, in this society, and we need to ensure that you have all the tools you need, and your diet is critically a part of that conversation of being able to achieve that. So to achieve it, you got to believe it, and then we can conceive it. And we are conceiving that through eating more plants, plants for the people, power to the plants, power to the pallets, power to the plates. That is
Yeah.
the conversation.
I love that. In order to achieve, gotta believe it. I love that. What about you, Kai? Like, what do you think that we should start off with? How should we help young people change their mindset when it comes to healthy eating?
Well, I think a lot of it comes with one knowledge. Like, do they have, has anyone actually stopped and asked them, like, do you know what's in that? Like, do
Hmm.
you, what do you think might you want to try? What other things like that, just to probe and get their minds thinking about things. Because I know that when I was young, it was like whatever's in front of me, I'm gonna eat.
Hmm.
So even taking them, asking them to pause for a second. I think teaching a lot of what I found is that when I was able to cook for myself, when I learned how to cook, that's when things got a lot easier and a lot healthier for me. So, if there are ways that in school, for example, my school offers a cooking class, how can we angle these cooking classes to also include, if not be fully health and fully, you know, plant-based, how can we include units on things like that? How can we include nutrition and things like this in science curriculums? Where can we see this in language arts curriculums? What texts are we showing students? Things like that. And just more things like this. I know that when I tell some of my students sometimes, my school is 100% students of color in a low-income area in Miami. When I tell them, like, I don't eat meat, it's like, one, completely against a lot of our cultures. Like, a Hispanic, a Jamaican not eating meat? What is that? Like, I've never
People
even
fought
heard
too
of that.
hard for you not to eat meat.
Right. Like, how does that even work? And the simple fact that, like, exposure to it, that, yeah, there are people that look like you that eat this stuff, and yeah, there are ways to do it. You know, your rice and beans that you eat, that's vegan in itself, type of stuff. And even simply the exposure sometimes can be enough. Because I remember coming up with this idea of, like, oh, white people, veganism white, like the health white, like, but even the older thank goodness for Howard, like Howard put me on to the just diversity of Black people, and then diversity of interests in different avenues, and that people are in, all types of people are in every type of community. So doing things like that, and also taking an approach of not necessarily punitive with it, entering with curiosity, entering with, I'm just trying to invite you in and, like, show you my way of doing things. It's not like you have to take it, but I just want to show you. Because I know that sometimes I've had conversations with people like, oh, I hope you're not going to try to talk me out of. I'm not here for that. I'm here to eat my meal, just like you.
Evangelizing.
But yeah, basically. So approaching it from those types of angles of, like, knowledge, teaching how to cook for yourself, and then also just inviting rather than evangelizing is a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
What about you, Maggie? What do you think? How can we help young people change their narrative on eating unhealthy foods to eating healthy foods?
Yeah, I think from my experience working on farms, both in cities and out of cities, just experiential learning and getting your hands in the soil and getting to feel more a part, being invited into learning about your food and being invited to have some agency in thinking about your food, I think can be really meaningful. And you know what what has sort of been said already about, like, the fact that veganism often, especially, I live in New York City, like, veganism is so tied to gentrification in a lot of parts of New York City, and trying to break that chain where, the avocado toast restaurant goes in on your corner and that signals that rents are going up, like figuring out ways to break that process and have, people be able to grow closer to their food and stay in their neighborhood and not have, uh, the the realities of all of these other systems of that influence food negatively influencing your ability to go out and live a healthy, fulfilled life. So for seeing how they're all connected issues, and then being able to intervene in processes that are making it hard for you to get food. And I think calling your Congress people regularly as a
Mm-hmm.
habit to get young people involved in, especially around food. I work at an environmental nonprofit now, and we say, call your Congress people every Friday and about issues that matter to you.
I love this live today because it's helping me so much, and I hope it's helping everyone who's viewing tonight. Any panelists, Tambra, Kai, or Maggie, we got anything else you want to add as we close? Because we really went past time. I love
Yeah, we want people to taste and see the
it.
possibilities when they incorporate more plants in their life, because we know that you are worthy and deserving to have the power to fulfill your purpose. And it is critical that your diet plays a role in it. And we want you to know that we will continue to advocate for that
Mm-hmm.
in the Food Policy Council going into this fall. I will be testifying on the federal level when it comes to nutrition equity. And it is, I want you to know people are fighting for all of us, and I'm fighting for you.
Wow, amazing. What about you, Kai?
Um, Health is wealth, and it's okay if, I think we mentioned this with, like, flexitarianism. It's okay to fall off. Like, you don't have to beat yourself up about it. the labels don't matter as much as how you feel and what you eat, and are you healthy. And along the same lines, just when you get on, put somebody else on too, because that's how a movement starts.
Great. Lastly, Maggie.
I hope everyone's as hungry as I am, because talking about all this food has really got me ready for dinner.
I'm eating after this.
But thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I feel like I learned a lot tonight. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys again. All you guys are sheroes, okay? I'm just so excited to hear all of you guys talk about the things that you guys are doing in the community, as well as things you do for yourself. You guys are amazing. Tambra, we're going to talk soon. I hope you can help more students and help us with some workshops and any more things with the youth that we have here at UHMP. And thank you, Kai and Maggie. You guys have been a part of with us for a while, so I'm excited to work with all of you guys in the future. For all the people that's watching, we're not going to have another Therapy Thursday next week, but we will have one after that. So hang on tight. We getting some things working together. But we are so excited for our next people, and we are thankful for the people that's here today. You guys have a wonderful day, and you guys have a wonderful evening. So see you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.